Welcome to Create Momentum for Positive Mindset. Today, my guest is Leslie Zann. She is entrepreneur, author, public speaker, and she is launching her book, Outrageous Achievement, 23rd of Feb. I'm really thankful and grateful to you, Leslie. You have given the time to the Create Momentum.
Thank you so much, Zann. I'm so happy to be here with you. Appreciate it.
Of course. So, Leslie, how you have been now in this uncertain time? How was your weekend? Because today is, another weekend to go. So, do you have any plans for weekend?
I do actually. I'm a cyclist. In fact, when I was not a cyclist before the pandemic, but I have become a cyclist in the last 9 months. And so I'll probably go for about a 50-mile ride and over the course of the weekend. And it's just been a marvelous way for me to get outside, but also Sunday, two big football games on Sunday. It's the NFL playoffs, and the winners of those two games go to the Super Bowl. So I'm sure I'm going to get some football in also.
Of course, of course. My first question will be with you. Please tell us about yourself.
Well, I'm 60 years old. I've been an entrepreneur most of my life, and I've always been curious as to why so many people have big dreams and so few people go after them. And that's always been a driving question for me and in my work. And for many years, I was a salesman. And then I segued into a corporate career where I taught salespeople. And then in 2012, I got a divorce, a very unexpected divorce after a long-term marriage. And like a lot of people, when you have a big life change like that, I started questioning, what do I want to do? And I knew I wanted to keep working with salespeople and entrepreneurs. I wanted to keep doing what I was doing, but I wanted to do it on my terms. I did not want to go back to a corporate career. So I launched my own business in 2012. And I sit before you gratefully that I have been as busy as I can be since day one. And I believe there's a definite connection to when you truly are following your passion, magical things happen. Not that you don't have to put in the work and pay your dues and show up and tell your truth and be prepared. But to note the name of your show, that momentum is created through hard work tied to a very big vision.
Thank you for that. Obviously, if the name came in when somebody on the stage was giving a speech, it said create momentum. So I took the name from there, and I'm working on it because it's my side hustle as I work as a security officer, but this is a side hustle I'm doing. However, I'm really thankful. I shout out to David Melza. So his words, my definition of happiness is really simple. It is the enjoyment to be consistent every day, persistent without quit, and pursuit of my potential. Those words catched me, and then I connected to David.
Yeah.
So, how did your journey started? I mean, as you said, 2012. Could you please tell us about your journey?
Well, I was sitting on the sofa deciding what I wanted to do. I had received 3 corporate offers to continue working because after the divorce, just to tie everybody together, after the divorce, I turned in my notice because they pay me to be chipper and motivating, and all I was doing at that time was crying. So I wasn't very good at motivating in those days. So I turned in my notice. I took some time for myself. I started getting more and more clear about what I wanted to do. And through that process, 3 companies made me very good offers to come in as a corporate trainer, but my heart wasn't in it. I just knew it wasn't right. And so I had that conversation on the sofa one Sunday morning. And if you've ever heard the story of Alexander the Great, when he went overseas to fight and he realized immediately that the army was bigger and they had a couple of choices, and they went back to the ship, and all the soldiers thought we're going to hop on the ship and go back home. And he said, nope, burn the boats. meaning we only have one option. We are going to go in there and we are going to win, which is what they did. And that story was going through my mind. So I made that decision that morning. I was going to burn my boats. So I called all three of those companies and told them thank you, but no thank you. And I made that decision to launch my business, even though starting a business right then would not have penciled out in anybody's plan. It was 2012. If you recall, we were in the middle of a huge recession. I had talked to other speakers and trainers who did what I do, and they kept telling me, hey, you're good, but we're not getting enough work right now. So nobody really said go. They said you could do it and you'd be great, but nobody said go. And I almost stole my own dream. And I almost took one of the corporate gigs until I decided, nope, I'm doing this. And I think one of my biggest lessons, Shazad, is that when I made the decision to do this, I did not go into it with the idea that if this doesn't work, I'll take a corporate gig. I did not go into it with the idea that I'll just dip my toe, cross my fingers, and see what happens. I went into it, to your theme, creating momentum. I went into it 100% committed that I was going to do whatever it takes to make this a success. And I believe for so many people, when they move into a big dream or a big project, they keep that exit strategy too close at hand and they only dip their toe. And I believe when you make that full 100% commitment to jump in, magic can happen.
Of course, I agree with you. The another thing is people, I always say this, people look for perfection. When you look for perfection, you want everything perfect. You won't do anything. Maybe you say, I have a perfect time, I'm going to launch my book, or I will come up with a perfect idea. You always seek for progress. So going to your book, as you are launching on 23rd of Feb 2021, why outrageous achievement?
Well, as I said, I've always been curious why more people don't succeed, or why so many people stay stuck, or why so many people settle. And if you look at the different chapters, it really answers that question. If you just look at the chapters, I open the book talking about fears and limiting beliefs and how that can keep people stuck from even having a dream. I do a whole chapter on settling, why we settle, how we're not even aware that we're settling. We settle in our health, we settle in our career, we settle in relationships, we settle in creative expression. I believe many people settle, they're not even aware that they're settling, and yet there's this internal feeling of dissatisfaction or discomfort or lack of joy. And so settling is a reason people don't succeed. I do a whole chapter on the law of attraction, which is something I would imagine with creating momentum that you're very familiar with. And I take them through the whole history of the law of attraction, how the phrase was first said in a book in the 1800s by a Russian woman. And I take them through the whole history of law of attraction and why what we think about, we bring about, like why our thoughts are so important. I talk about unusual things like what I call being bulletproof, right? So that you are impervious to the negativities and the obstacles. I talk about our passions. I talk about the difference between taking action and right action. And I love this whole concept on having a bias towards action. I think too many people get a great idea, but then they don't act on it because they haven't strengthened their bias towards action. And so an idea just sits and never gets the opportunity to blossom into fruition. So it was my blueprint for the world to, number one, create awareness, and number two, help more people move in the direction of their dreams.
Of course, there is another thing I want to say to you. People want to be successful, but they don't love the process. And if you don't believe in yourself, nobody will believe in you.
Yeah, starts with belief. I agree 100%.
Okay, my second question is, has the pandemic impacted the way you see the world or changed your fundamental lessons for creating outrageous achievement in your life?
Well, when the pandemic started here, I'm a professional speaker. And so in the blink of an eye, all my gigs were canceled. And so I had to immediately pivot. And like so many other people around the world who found themselves in self-isolation, I had to come up with a new way to do business. And so I made a pivot and I made a commitment. To your point, I was courageous enough to jump into that process and learn new ways to do my presentations on Zoom, and really how to even get more engaging at Zooms and draw the audience in, and give them a sense that they really were at a live event, and get that same feeling of taking in the information and being seen and being heard. So from a professional standpoint, and I'm very grateful, really didn't miss a beat. I pivot fast enough, and my clients were with me and stayed with me. So I was very fortunate professionally, learned a lot of new skills. I would say from a personal level, the shift in me from going through this past year, I'm very keen on core values. I do core value work every year. I get very clear on my personal core values. If the pandemic has done anything, it's strengthened my resolve for my top core values, my core value for health, my core value for financial security, my core value for service to other people, my core value for community and how important that is to me. So it's truly strengthened and brought to light the core values I knew I had, but has given me an opportunity to make them real in everyday life.
Absolutely. I just want to ask you something in this regarding this pandemic. There's a lot of pandemics has been came in last 20 years. It was SARS, Ebola, and a lot of things. I mean, three to four pandemic. If you see 2008, it was a financial crisis where Lehman Brothers falls off, and now coronavirus, which hit it in COVID-19, which started in 19. So, I mean, these pandemics will be coming in future as well, and it could be more worse. So, what will you suggest to the people how they should prepare themselves?
Well, there's different areas of preparation. So first of all, mindset. Like, I don't want them living their life in fear. Too many people live their life focusing on how not to get knocked down rather than learning to pick themselves up and preparing themselves to move through obstacles. So I don't recommend we move forward in fear. Number two, listen to the scientists. When things like this happen, follow their advice with regards to, in this case now, people who are wearing masks and people who are social distancing and doing the things to be not only taking care of yourself, but being a courteous human being to the rest of the world and the other people in your community. I would also talk about have a plan. Like you said, knowing the odds are this will happen again, what would be their plan? What would be their plan financially? They could be solid savers now as they move forward, right? Once they get back on their feet. For those people, I know there's so many people who lost their jobs, who aren't working. You look at the travel industry and the restaurant industry and like all these professions. It's kind of it's an interesting dichotomy that some professions are flourishing during the pandemic while others have come to a screeching halt. So wherever you are, look to the future. If this hasn't created a sense of, once I get back on my feet, I want to do what I can to save and have different options when things happen. I know it's got my mind thinking that way when in the blink, in one day, all my business disappeared. And so, and I would also say, be a good learner. Like wherever you do as a profession, continue to learn new things, open new doors, expand your network. You never know who is going to come along or what opportunity is going to present itself, or something that you learn would give you an opportunity that perhaps if your profession did close again, or things did go bad, or you lost your job, or you had to go in another direction, how can you strengthen your knowledge base, increase your value so that you have more options? I was very fortunate. I had multiple options. I can not only speak on stage, I could speak on a Zoom, right? I can speak in different formats. I can write. I had multiple options That's a good thing to have. Just like you want to diversify your portfolio, you want to diversify your skill set.
Of course, that's why I started a podcast and me and you having a conversation on the 42 episode of Create Momentum. So, another question is, what are some of the unique and unusual topics you write about in Outrageous Achievement that aren't typically found in a self help personal development book?
That's a great question. So I mentioned a few of them earlier. I would say it's rare that I see people really diving into the topic of settling. That seems to be a topic people are so uncomfortable with, not unlike shame. It's just one of those topics you don't hear often. And I am absolutely convinced that too many people are settling in too many areas of their lives. And the biggest reason why is, number one, they're either not aware or they don't feel like they have any options. This is the best that they can do. Things are good enough. Maybe it doesn't hurt enough. It's not painful enough. And when we are coasting with the status quo, we are robbing ourselves of the opportunity to tap into our full potential and live our best life. So settling is a topic. I had a focus group of people who read the book, and I got more comments on settling, and phone calls and just the feedback on, gosh, I didn't really realize how I was settling and where in my life I was settling. And I tell personal stories throughout the whole book, not to make the book about me, but stories of loss, stories of betrayal, stories of when I fell down, stories of how I overcame obstacles. A lot of different things happen. I've lost my business in my 20s and built it back, and I've had my house burned down, so I lost all my stuff, and I've already mentioned the divorce, so I know what losing your best friend is like. I've had illness, and I'm perfectly healthy now, but for 5 years I wasn't well. And so I try to take those lessons of how I overcame those obstacles to try to give strength and options and ideas and an action plan. So no matter what people are going through, they can create their own blueprint and move forward in their lives. Life is short, as we all know.
Absolutely. There's a quote. It says, accept the challenge so you that may feel the exhilaration of victory, which you are.
Yeah.
So, in what way did writing the book change you?
Have you ever heard other authors or creative people, maybe you feel this way when you're interviewing, that you feel like it's just coming through you, like it was just supposed to come out? Like I really felt it was supposed to come out. It is a culmination of what I've been training for 30 years to, tens of thousands of people around the world in my courses or on my Zooms or in my live presentations. It took 9 months to write the book. I get up at 4:30 in the morning, 5 days a week, to write for a couple hours before work. Discipline, for sure. And it's interesting. It's not always fun to get up at 4:30 in the morning. And I learned, like I really put what I write into practice. Like I did not walk into my office at 4:30 going, oh my gosh, I'm exhausted. I have to write now. I would stop in my living room before I would come here into my office, and I would literally look out of the window and I would say, I am so excited to write today. Who knows what's going to come out of my head today? Like I literally would shift my mindset. So when I sat down at my desk, I just had different energy. So for sure, discipline. Sharing the stories, going back, was very cathartic. Talking about the divorce, talking about the fire, talking about the fun stories. I'm not afraid to speak, obviously. It's what I do for a living, but I've always been terrified to sing. And I tell a story of how I took singing lessons and sang in front of 100 people. Oh my gosh, it makes my palms sweat even thinking about it. And what a vulnerable, transparent moment that was, but all the lessons that I learned from it. I tell a story of right after the divorce, how I felt like I had been risk averse for so many years. I wasn't aware of that till after the fact. So I made this decision. I was going to do the scariest thing I can think of. So I went skydiving, and I tell the story leading up to the skydive and the day of the jump, and the lessons I learned from the jump. And so it's just a whole, it changed me in so many ways. And yet it really was simply a reflection of the woman I am now put on paper.
Of course. So one more thing about this, that how many books have you a person need to read to write a book? Is it a lot of material which you have gone through, or is it just the stories which you piled up and you put it in a writing?
That's an interesting question. I've written a couple of books, but they were specifically for salespeople. So this was a book for the world. This was a book that I wanted to really share the lessons and the concepts that I have seen transform people and get it in a book form so that people could truly make a difference. This whole project is one of what I call high intention. I wanted to give it my best and bring so much value to the audience, high intention and low attachment. This book is not about me. This book was completely driven by service and my desire to help people realize that you literally can design the life of your dreams. And too many people are not. And yet they can and they should. And I just think we continue to owe it to them to give them that possibility.
Of course. So before we wrap up, I have three questions with you. There's a very small question that what makes you happy, what drives you, and what you want in life?
What makes me happy? Well, I'm I'm easily pleased. It for me, it's the little things in life. Like my new lights on the patio deck that I put on for the holidays, and now I'm not taking them off because when it gets dark and that balcony lights up, it just makes my heart sing. When I hear the birds sing outside my window, I'm doing something nice for somebody, giving a gift or making a difference. Um, Being alive makes me happy, honestly. I'm not saying I don't have my moments. Uh, we all do. I do not take my life for granted for 1 second. So if I need one answer, it's being alive makes me happy.
Okay, absolutely great. So, is there any message for the audience, your fans, family, or friends? What message would you like to give?
That every day is a holiday, and that what you think of your reality right now is created by your thoughts. And if you are not happy in any area of your life, whether it's your health or your relationships or your career, your thoughts, by shifting your thoughts, by making commitment to working on yourself and shifting your thoughts, you literally can change your life. And it doesn't matter your age. We're never too young and we're never too old. At any moment you make the decision, your life can have the zest, and you can find the grit, and you can find the courage. You have everything you need inside you to create and live your best life. And we must always remember that.
Leslie, thank you very much for your time, and I'm really grateful to you.